On Grid tonight, Supercars CEO James Warburton resigned from his role. How will his second stint be remembered? Cleetus McFarland wasn't cleared to race at Talladega after competing last weekend at Rockingham. What does he need to do in order to gain NASCAR's approval? Next time. Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Land. With me tonight are Omi from JB Motorsports and Mike White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. Throughout the show, leave your comments and questions in the chat for us to display, and visit gridnetworktv.com for our latest content. Coming off the holiday weekend for Easter, we really don't have much to talk about, but we tried to muster something together so we could have a show for tonight. Yeah, so Omi, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. We have been able to find a few interesting topics for you, and we're going to unleash them across the show for you. And first of all, of course, the top story is what we are going to get ourselves into. So a few hours after last week's show ended, we learned that James Warburton stepped down as the CEO of the Repco Supercars Championship, effective immediately before back-to-back race weekends in New Zealand. Warburton's second stint as the Supercars CEO began on July 23rd last year. He previously held this role from 2013 to 2017, and many were looking forward to his return as the top executive. Racing Australia Consolidated Enterprises, RACE, confirmed the split was a mutual agreement in the best interest of the series as Supercars enters its next phase. As a result of Warburton's departure, the chair of RACE, Barclay Nettlefold, will become the interim CEO while the board begin the formal process of appointing a new permanent CEO. Warburton said he's proud of what Supercars has achieved and the momentum they've built for the sport in a short period of time. Photo courtesy of the series. Well, how bad does this look from an optics perspective that James Warburton is gone less than a year on the job and before two big weekends in New Zealand? Evening, Matt. And first of all, we'll go to you, Kobe, in terms of that question.
Yeah, it's really crazy that James Warburton is gone. I remember when they brought him back. I believe we talked about it here on this show, and there was a lot of excitement from the Supercars paddock that James Warburton was coming back to the series. As he mentioned, Omi, he previously served in this role from 2013, until 2017, and a lot of people were very happy with what he was able to do during his first stint at Supercars, and then once he left, had other people leading the series, and then he came back, and a lot of people felt like that he was the right man for this job at this time, as Supercars was hoping to enter the next chapter in its history. And we're going to talk a little bit about James Warburton's accomplishments in just a little while, but it's just really crazy to see that this guy whom a lot of people believe that was the right man to take Supercars into the future at this time, and we thought he was going to be here for the foreseeable future. And it's really crazy that just last summer for us here in the Northern Hemisphere, that's when he officially returned as a Supercar CEO after being away for several years. And now, just several months later, he's out. Yeah, real unfortunate situation for the series. You like to see a little bit more stability, because when you see someone who's in a position of power like this and they're not on the job a long time, it can make the series look a little bit unstable. So hopefully Supercars can identify a new CEO who can take the series to bigger and better places, and someone who can be there for a long period of time. And yeah, as a team once said in a graphic, the timing of this could not be worse, because this is right before this huge race weekend in New Zealand. There's been a lot of excitement, returning to Taupo this coming weekend, and next weekend going to be at Ruapuna Park next weekend as well, racing on the North and the South Island. There's been a lot of hype surrounding this event. 2 race weekends in New Zealand back to back on both of the islands. And then you have your CEO bowing out before this huge back-to-back weekend. Yeah, not really good, but hopefully Supercars can put this behind them and move forward in a positive way once they identify a new CEO.
Well, good evening, Omi. Hello, Kobe. To answer the question you posed in the very intro there, Kobe, how will his reign be remembered? Well, this one, short. It will be remembered for its timescale. Not very long at all, as you've documented there. Last summer, our Northern Hemisphere time to now. Very short stint indeed. Everyone was very excited when he came back, because, as you mentioned, that previous stint that he had back from 2013 onwards, a lot of things changed in the sport. There was a regulation upheaval. There were some changes to some of the race programs and things. Some of them missed. The 60-60 sprint races on Saturdays were a bit of a miss, and thankfully they only lasted for one season. But he did a lot of good things in that time, and said about the TV deal in that period that we still have pretty much run through today, which of course got re-upped again last year for this coming season. So a lot of good things happened in that stint. Everyone was very excited about this one, but for whatever reasons, it doesn't look like it's worked out. And Warbo, as some people have dubbed him, is already out the door. So, and as you say, on the eve of this New Zealand double this weekend, the next weekend, seems like forever since we've had a Supercars round, which of course was with the Australian Grand Prix back at the start of March. So it's been pretty much 6 weeks since the last meeting. Two back-to-back, pretty much back-to-back, didn't they? With Sydney opening the season and then Albert Park. Now they've been on the boat down to Taupo, and then the big, even bigger really for them up in the North Island next weekend at Rapuna, as you mentioned, Kobe. So big couple of weekends for Supercars, and maybe they will sort of put this on ice for the weekend and get through as best they can before making, all the job application stuff happen once they're back from this couple of weeks foray into NZ.
Yeah, Naomi, before we move on to the next thing, just also wanted to add how smart it was for Supercars to put this on back-to-back weekends, where I think when they announced this, they dubbed this as like a 2-week vacation in New Zealand if you're able to get the time off, where first week, you can explore one island, and then the next week, you explore the second island, and in the middle of that, you get to go to the track and enjoy the races. Like the perfect ticket if you wanted to ever visit New Zealand, because I know at first, when they announced these races, we didn't know where they were going to be in the schedule, and people were wondering if we're going to go to maybe one track earlier in the year and then the second track later in the year, but it didn't really make any sense to do that. But I thought it was really smart that they decided to put these New Zealand races back to back. And Matt, you may know this, the answer to this question, but when was the last time we had a Supercars race, like back to back in this fashion?
You're going back maybe 10 years off the top of my head when we've had back-to-back rounds. Like, obviously the Cup Series and the whole of the NASCAR is every week pretty much. Granted, we didn't have a Cup race this weekend, but that is 30, 40 weeks on the spin, isn't it, for NASCAR, relatively, one series or another. But Supercars back-to-back round, yeah, that I'm sure someone's looked it up. I haven't, so I couldn't tell you the answer, but it's been a fair while since that's happened in any part of the country. Even when they went to Abu Dhabi and Bahrain in the same season, that had a week's break in between, I feel like. So when was that, 2006, 2007? So, yeah, do not remember the last back-to-back. So if you're a Supercars fan, enjoy the next 10 days.
Yeah, and maybe Adam can tell us in the chat if he's watching tonight.
Yeah, Adam might know the answer to that one.
Yes.
Well, and there he is, buddy.
There you go. Perfect. The NZ Denny Hamlin.
I mean, we all knew Adam would find himself in the chat, and there we go, in all his glory, right at the bottom. And yes, continue to get your comments in across the show. And yeah, to be fair, 2 big weekends, but I guess we just now need to pretty much get on with it. I think in terms of the championship, I think that's going to be so important. And now just put the past behind them. Where and when possible. Right. Okay. According to Speed Cafe, one of the leading factors behind Warburton's departure was down to the current setup of the board's representation. Now, Warburton was Supercars CEO during his first stint under previous ownership. He reported to the board that was very much hands-off and let him do what he needed to do. However, the current board leader Nettlefold, which lead to an apparent power struggle between the two men. Speed Cafe says Warburton voiced his concerns about needing more freedom and power to do the job he felt he needed to do, but it went nowhere and ultimately led to Warburton walking away. Now, during Warburton's second stint, he oversaw the debut season of the finals player format, helped build up 2 weeks of racing in New Zealand on the North Island and the South Island, and he also helped bring in an international driver in NASCAR's Austin Cindric in the Adelaide Grand final last year to draw in stock car racing fans from America. Lastly, Warburton changed up the broadcast structure and saw the departures of the beloved Neil Crompton and Mark Safil. Link to this article is in the video description. Now, Matt, starting off with you, how will you remember Warburton's second stint in Supercars? I guess you kind of gave the answer earlier, but if you were to expand on it a little bit more, how will you remember it?
Well, you can add to that list of things that have happened in the last little while, of course, overseeing Toyota coming into the series as well. Of course, that was already pre-planned before he came back in. But that has happened, of course, at the end of last year and into the new season this year with the Supra. Yeah, not great. A lot of fan backlash, of course, at the beginning of last year. At the beginning of this year, and the end of last year, when it was clear that the beloved and God that is Neil Crompton would not return to the commentary role. People less fussed about Mark Scaife, to be honest, but for Crompo not to have his send-off like he did the Adelaide race, of all that controversy that happened, of course, Brock Feeney being taken out, Chaz Mustard winning the championship back in November, that was his final call, and he didn't get a proper send-off or any send-off at all. And also there's going to be another commentary shuffle going into Taupo this weekend, I've read this morning. So more changes in the commentary booth at Supercars. So that would be I think the main thing for me is you've got your Mike Joy, your Murray Walker of that series in Neil Crompton, who's been around it, been a driver and in the booth for so long, and for him not to have a send-off in any shape or form will stick in the craw of a lot of people from the end of last season and beginning of this. That's my sort of main takeaway from this Warburton stay as the Supercars CEO.
Yes, certainly didn't live up to the expectations that we thought, of everything James Warburton would do. But he did accomplish some things. As I mentioned, he oversaw the very first year of a playoff style system in Supercars. With the finals, it certainly didn't lack for drama, right? With Brock Feeney, having such a dominant season, and then Ryan Wood, hitting him, making contact with him, and then that was that. And the Brock Feeney's championship story. And also something else interesting in the Speed Cafe article, they said that, that Supercars had made a documentary based on the inaugural year of the finals, and that Warburton really wanted Brock Feeney, to try, to go out and promote that documentary in the trailer. But Brock Feeney, obviously, still very salty over how last year ended. They said Brock Feeney refused, to have anything to do with that, with the promotion of that documentary, and obviously is understandably so, given how he had the championship taken away from him just like that. So they said Warburton was very disappointed with that. So I feel like the finals documentary didn't get the type of publicity that I felt like it should have. And to be honest, I didn't even know there was a documentary on the 2025 Supercars finals until I read this article. So there's that. And then, obviously we talked about New Zealand coming up, really good. And Matt, you mentioned Toyota. I actually forgot about that. But yeah, like you said, that really happened, before James Warburton came back. So that's why I guess I didn't, really give him credit for that, but, still oversaw them coming in. And obviously, he wanted to have a big name driver come down to race the Supercars. At first, it was like Kyle Busch, then it was Kyle Larson, and, then ended up being, Austin Cindric. And obviously a lot of people here in the USA, who follow NASCAR were very excited to see Austin Cindric go race, down under. And I'm sure that was good for their international viewership stateside. And then I saw something crazy last week. I don't know if it was an April Fool's thing or not, but there were some things out there about F1 driver Liam Lawson trying to get him a wild card seat, for one of the rounds in New Zealand. So I have no idea if that's true. So if that was an April Fool's Day joke, it almost got me if that was the case. But the big thing that I'm going to remember from James Warburton's second stint is what Matt mentioned about the commentary, how he completely changed how Supercars races are not necessarily called, but he changed the structure of each broadcast. I know Supercars fans absolutely love Lil Crompton and everything that he's given to the sport, and the fact that that he didn't get a proper send off or or as many believe, considering how beloved he is. A lot of people believe Neil Crompton deserved to go out on his own terms. So when Neil Crompton says he's done, that's when he should have been done. Instead of being forced out the door. I know in the press release when they made the announcement of that Neil Crompton would not be the lead commentator anymore, they said that he was offered a reduced role in the commentary, but he decided that he would rather leave, and then Mark Scaife was ousted as well, which was super unfortunate. So a lot of Supercars fans, that those are the two guys that they wanted in the booth for the foreseeable future. But James Warburton felt like that it needed a change, and unfortunately, Crompton, Scaife out the door, and James Warburton following both of those guys out the door, just like that. And I do wonder during this time, what are Neil Crompton and Mark Scaife thinking? Like, because like what could have been, because if it wasn't for this guy and his master plan to try to remake the Supercars broadcast landscape, these guys might have still been here. Yeah, so it's real unfortunate timing.
It was indeed really, really unfortunate, as you mentioned at the same time. My problem is that the Supercars has one of the best TV racing product on the planet, but the swapping and changing is hurting the product at the moment. Matt, agree? Disagree?
Yeah, I'm a little bit behind on Supercars, has to be said, but
yes.
Yeah, the chopping, and you want, I mean, it's kind of the case with NASCAR, of course, where we have the Fox portion, and even more so now when we have the TNT Amazon bit in the middle and then NBC at the end, but we know what we're getting. With Supercars at the moment, we don't know who's calling what races. We've had Chad Nalon for the first 2 rounds with Garth. There's going to be a change for these next 2 races as well. So you want, as I said, you want your Mike Joys, your Murray Walkers, your Neil Cromptons, your Lee Diffees, your Toby Moody and Julian Ryder, if you ask me, for a MotoGP perspective from Eurosport back in the day. You want those guys doing every single week, and you turn on a Friday for practice or a Saturday of a Supercars round expecting to get another voice calling your race that you're about to watch, and there's a choice at the moment between nothing against any of them, Chad Nalon, Matt Nolte, or Richard Grail, with esteemed colleagues and pundits in the booth next to them or downstairs in pit lane. So the Crompton Scaife dynamic, which has been there with Matt White, not me, the other one, with Greg Rust, with Aaron Noonan from time to time, all the way back to about 2006, 7. Long tenure for those guys in the booth, and then of course Lackley doing it, the pair of them doing it themselves. We talked about it at the time. I feel like at the beginning of the year that how much of a shame and a shock that it was for it to happen, and perhaps it's one of the things that a lot of people didn't like, not just the fans but in the board as well, of which Mark Scaife is a board member.
Yeah, and that makes it even more awkward, doesn't it? And and my thing is, like, if it wasn't broken, then why you try to fix it? I just still don't understand this decision, all these months later, to decide to kick Neil Crompton and Mark Scaife out of the booth. I didn't think anything was wrong with those guys. They've been doing it for so many years. They're your familiar voices that you're used to when you're watching the Supercars races. So I guess you can say James Warburton completely dropped the ball in this situation. But like you're saying, I don't want to take anything away from Chad. I have a lot of respect for Chad, and I think he deserves an opportunity to be a lead commentator. And listening to the first few rounds, I think he's done a really good job in the booth. So definitely don't want to take that away. But at the same time, it's really hard to justify kicking 2 legends out of the booth.
You didn't Crompton get the nickname Uncle Neil for no reason. So he was everybody's mate in the commentary booth.
I mean, if this changing continues, who knows? I might end up by the end of the season possibly having a chance at it.
On a plane to Adelaide to call the final race.
I know. It could be very, very interesting. I want someone, Tony Quattrone, in charge again. I loved him as a Supercar CEO.
Yeah, Adam, it'll be great to have Coco back from the noughties, but he's got his business fingers in other pies now, and he said plenty of times his Supercars tenure is over and he won't be coming back to do it again. So in that 2000, just before all the way through to the middle of the noughties. He was the man at the top. He was the Bernie Ecclestone of supercars, and he, you know, vaulted it from strength to strength to kind of the platform that it got to now, where it has come from there to today. So it'd be good to have a character like Tony back, but I don't think we're going to see him even just as a guest, let's be honest, at a supercars round going forward.
Probably not as well. Okay, well, let's progress then on to our second story here of the evening. So despite making his NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts series debut at Rockingham Speedway last weekend, NASCAR decided not to approve Garrett Mitchell, aka Cleetus McFarland, to compete in the upcoming race at Talladega Speedway. He finished fourth in the ARCA Menards series East race earlier in the day and performed reasonably well. However, his first race in the O'Reilly Auto Parts series presented a great challenge as he struggled to adapt to the O'Reilly car and ultimately finished 32nd, 6 laps down in the number 33 Richard Childness Racing Chevrolet. Now, the jump from ARCA to O'Reilly is massive, and McFarland got to experience that firsthand. As a result, NASCAR feels like he needs to gain more experience in trucks and ARCA before they feel comfortable enough to approve him to race on super speedways in the O'Reilly Auto Parts series. NASCAR Executive Vice President and Chief Racing Development Officer John Probst said they're all huge fans of McFarland and the impact he's had on the sport with a large following on social media, but admitted that he's only approved to go on short track racing in the O'Reilly Auto Parts series and all tracks on the Craftsman Truck series and ARCA Menards series schedules. Probst added that NASCAR more from McFarland on the short tracks before approving him to race at tracks like Talladega. In a video, McFarland responded to the decision, saying getting more seat time is going to help him, and admitted that there's so much time to learn. And this photo is taken by Meg Oliphant from Getty Images. Now, given how badly he's struggled in his debut, did NASCAR make the right decision to deny him the approval to race in the O'Reilly Auto Parts series at Talladega, Matt?
Well, we've and about talking about this story on the show tonight for various reasons, but we're going to go with it, as you can see. So there's been so much chat about Cleetus, hasn't there, from the back end of last year and into this year, of course, at Daytona as well. 4th place in the ARCA race on Saturday lunchtime. It's a good result. But to use a Fernando Alonsoism, I could come 4th in an ARCA Menards race, I think, fairly without too much issue. The big step up, obviously, from ARCA is then to trucks and to the Grand National Series, O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. And that seems to be where Cleetus, Garrett, is falling down a little bit here. And I think it's, he's got a huge following. That we know. You only have to watch when they do the onboard stream they did it a couple of times last year, and I think they did it on YouTube, NASCAR YouTube channel this weekend for Cleetus as well, of his onboard, how much traffic just the onboard gets, let alone anyone watching the actual race on TV or otherwise. So he's a big star, but the experience clearly is not there. But I mean, you need to stop pushing someone just because. It sort of reminds me a little bit of Formula E when they've had the creator stuff that we did that thing at Miami last year, where they had people like Sergio Aguero and whoever else driving the Formula E cars, doing something for doing something's sake. The best thing I can think of for this would be someone that we all know that loves driving cars, looks very fast on television when he is driving these vehicles, apart from when he's crashing them, and has got a huge following. Richard Hammond. If Richard Hammond decided he wanted to go and do NASCAR, I kind of feel like this might be sort of the same. Granted, he's a little bit older than Cleetus, so if you go back 10 years to when Top Gear was in its real pomp, just before all that went down the pan, and Richard had crashed the jet car and that electric thing in Switzerland and whatever else on the show, someone like that who's got a big following behind him, but isn't particularly good perhaps per se. Is that what we're now doing with our lower series of NASCAR? Just pushing people for content's sake? There's plenty of young guys down there we've seen over the last couple of years that are really good, and some people that are shining a bit of a light this year that we thought weren't so good in both the trucks and the Grand National Series. And there's some people that have made a career out of being in these series over the years. We talked about the Hall of Fame stuff last week with Justin Allgaier. People like Elliott Sadler, who ended his career in what was then the Nationwide Series for a long time. So I don't know what we're doing with these series. Are we just putting people in there to get people to watch, or are we, and obviously taking their money to get these rides, or are we doing it as a proper ladder for the young guys coming through, and a reverse ladder, I suppose, for the other guys that have fallen out of the higher series and are making a place for themselves? We talked about Corey LaJoie last week, didn't we? So in the truck series. So yeah, I don't really know what more NASCAR can do. He's clearly not up to it, and we saw at Daytona that did not go so well at the beginning of the year. So putting him on a wider, slightly faster track at Talladega, when we've seen how well or not well he would go, this is probably perhaps the right decision.
Yeah, probably is. And NASCAR finally has some sense. Imagine he did a race at Talladega and wipe himself out or the field. You imagine the driver's reaction in the Cup Series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here he goes. He's got to the front. Oh, and there's the big accident. Oh, colour me shocked. Exactly. So.
Yes. I mean, there you go. You've done the commentary pretty much of if it happened. Yeah, basically the summary. There you go. There you go. But yes, I mean, there was always pros and cons to it, I guess, from his perspective, from everyone's perspective. But that's the way. That's the way it has pretty much gone. Okay. Well, I mean, we've mentioned in this show that we don't have the most stories after the Easter weekend. But, however, we're about to get some first-hand information out there from Brands Hatch straight back to Grimsby very, very quickly. JB has returned and he's ready to take back on hosting duties for the rest of the show.
I woke up at 3:30. I got a train at 5:13. I arrived in London at about 8 a.m. rush hour. I got through London. I got to Swanley. The bus was cancelled. JT had to pick me up. We got to the circuit at 10:30 to where we were greeted, not with rain as we were expecting, but with 22-degree heat. Walked around the entire track a couple of times, went to the commentary box and did some broadcasting from there, which was still baking alive, but they've renovated the commentary boxes there and they have not fitted air conditioning. Negative there. But it was a great day and a great action, and I'm very tired. So let's get into it. Thanks, Amy, by the way, for stepping in. I am here. I am alive. It's just... the train got in at 10:46. This show starts at 10:30. No way I was going to make it. So let's get into the gist of this then. Here's what happened. The Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship held its season launch event today at Brands Hatch. Now, this season, there are 30 main races, but there's also the addition of 10 sprint races, and that is one per round of the championship. So effectively you get 4 races across the weekend. The sprints are going to be on the Saturday after qualifying. It's a new format as well this year for the 22 drivers racing around some of the finest tracks in Britain to get used to. So you're going to have one practice session of 40 minutes, followed then by a 30-minute qualifying, straight into a 15-minute race, followed then on Sunday by the traditional 3 races. So you effectively lose a practice session. And all the drivers were happy about that. Adam Morgan wasn't too best pleased, neither was Ricky Collard. And we'll get on to them both a bit later on. As I said, the day started out cool, but soon the temperatures grew. 25 Celsius as well was the air temperature. Track temperatures were in the mid-30s. And that is very unusual for here in early April in the UK. Usually we expect rain and flood warnings when we go to Brands Hatch, but today was definitely a factor 50. Now, West Surrey Racing topped the timesheets in a kind of new BMW, which is not really new because West Surrey Racing lost the team BMW that you see in GT3 racing, then we're in European Le Mans, World Endurance Championship, and in IMSA. The team BMWs have left British Touring Car action, so they're stuck with the BMW 330i M Sports. But they've had a few technical upgrades this year, and they're getting used to the car. Rainford did a 47.102, very respectable. His teammate, however, Dal de Jong, only did a 48.303. He was faster in the morning session. He had a bit of problems coming off it as well. Napa have got a brand new car, and it's a car which is kind of broken regulation. It's the Ford Focus Titanium. Now, this car is not available in Britain. It's only available in Europe. And usually, cars have to be available for 2 years before they can be allowed to be used in the British Touring Car Championship. But TOCA have allowed a special exemption, as this car will be going on sale in Britain quite soon. So, we've got a new car, and it was pretty much same old, same old. Napa are looking strong, but they look untidy. The front-wheel drive car just spins up its wheels and you're leaving with a lot of drag off the line. Quite a lot of the front-wheel drive cars veering towards the pit wall on their practice starts at the end of the day. So we'll keep an eye out on that. Laser Tools Racing have split with West Surrey Racing this year. So Laser Tools are now their own entry. And with Jake Hill going on to do international events this year, we've now got in his place a world champion and a very quick driver in Gordon Shedden, and Aaron Taylor-Smith, who is very happy, and he says he looks good in blue. Now, Team Virtue are going strong again. They are reigning champions with Tom Ingram, who has decided not to run the number 1, but run the number 80, as he's just launched his new club, Club 80. And Tom Chilton, who you might remember from the World Touring Car Championship days as well, back again, and he's actually feeling happy. And the car's looking quite good for those two. But on the other side, the slightly older Hyundais, we've got an interesting, because Nick Hamilton, brother of the 7-time Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton, has... Well, it was sort of the worst kept secret, but it was still a surprise when it actually came true. Nick Hamilton is racing with Virtue this year, and unfortunately, he didn't have the best look at Snetterton, although he said it was okay, but he went off twice today, causing red flags, once down at Paddock Hill Bend, once at Clark Curve. So just locking up, the car just going straight on into the barrier. It's a habit that we might start seeing, and even JT said in the booth, it looks like we could see that sort of become a regular this year. Now, on the other side of that is the prodigal son, because Ricky Collard, son of former touring car and world touring car, and even, if I remember correctly, Matt will correct me on this, GT driver, Rob Collard, Ricky Collard is back on an 11th hour signing. Literally, he was announced at 6 a.m. this morning. Whilst I was on the train, we got the information. And we at JB Motorsports got the first live interview with him on his return. That was brilliant. We'll get all those ready for you to watch next week on the show. But Matt, bringing you on this one as well, I presume you looked at Twitter the same as me and thought, what on earth's Ricky doing back? How do you find the prodigal son returning to the British Touring Car Championship with what is a very last-second deal? And he himself said just 4 hours of testing isn't good, especially with the new rule set of a sprint race coming in.
Well, indeed so. And you're right, Ricky and Rob, the father and son, they were British GT champions a couple of 3 years ago now. I didn't actually see that news, I'll be totally honest with you, Josh, until you were writing it in the script 15 minutes ago. So that is absolute news to me. I did see the photos of the pit lane walkabout, and it was absolutely packed for a Wednesday. So well done to everybody that went down to Brands Hatch fan-wise. I saw the Goodyear trucks on the motorway yesterday on their way down with stacked full of tyres. It is great living in the motorsport, in the carbon fibre triangle, as I call it.
Right, yeah.
So, yes, Collard back. That is late. Hopefully they can get him out again in between now and Donington Park next weekend, give him a bit more time. The Focus is just odd to me. But then again, did you ever see a Subaru Levorg on the road in Britain?
No.
Did you see any of those Civic estates on the road in Britain? Maybe one. So it's not the first time we've had some weird and wonderful cars in the British Touring Car Championship. I do think they've done. I know why they're doing that. It's to be more of a saloon against the Hyundai, the Ingram team. I'm not sure it's going to work, to be honest with you. And I already predicted that Ash Sutton would win the championship this year before I knew they were changing shape of cars, so that could come back to bite me.
I'm telling you this: the only two from the commentary box we were looking for the commentary box down the grid. The practice starts. The only two who nailed the start was Ingram and Sutton. That's it.
We know how good Ash is, and we know how good Tom is. They're the two guys that will be fighting it out for the championship all season, probably, if that Focus is a decent car straight out the truck from Donington next weekend onwards. So, going to be an interesting season as always. A little bit low on car count is a little bit concerned for me. Again, it's just pegged itself back every year for the last 5 or 6, maybe since pre-COVID and the hybrid era in the British Touring Car Championship. Still trying to recover from that, I feel like. As we know, and as we could well have been in a worse position at 1 a.m. our time last night, the world's a very different place to how it was a few years ago in terms of money. Yeah, let's hope we can keep, because we often see the odd car drop out here or there throughout the season. Let's hope we can keep the number and perhaps add to it through the year.
The quite funny thing with Ricky Collard was, hi Josh, glad you enjoyed the BTC test day. Cool stream day. Thank you very much, Adam. I'm sunburned beyond belief. I've literally gone in. I'm still wearing all my stuff. I've just got in. This shirt stinks. It was so hot today. It has clung to me. I feel sorry for the people I was on the train with. But Ricky Collard, well, actually, Tom Ingram told me that he felt like a bag of boiled rice during the pit walk because they had to wear all the uniforms and it was hot. It was really hot. I'm surprised there wasn't people offering free water bottles. It was really hot out there. But Ricky Collard was actually wearing his British GT outfit. He was in his normal, so no sponsor of the car. And I don't know, it just felt a bit, today felt weird. That's what it didn't feel like the touring cars. It felt very, very weird. And I'm hoping it sort of gets back into the swing of things when we get into Donington next week. Because we've had 6 months off, let's not forget. We had the test at Croft a few weeks ago, but this was the season launch. This was the first time that everybody's here and everybody starts racing. And it just feels a bit, But I must admit, drivers, very friendly. I'm sort of getting that weird thing now because I've been around for a couple of years. They know me and I know them. So I'm able to go up to them. And I tell you what, Dan Rowbottom, we're getting on to him in a second. He was a very happy chappy when I spoke to him as well. He's changed his tune massively. And this is why, because Plato Racing has been the big news story over the winter with Jason Plato, who's the most successful driver in the British touring car history. Most victories, most pole positions, most podiums as well, most fast laps. He has rewritten the book several times. He's launched a brand new team with Mercedes-powered cars coming into it as well. So that already is a big, interesting one. It's the A35 Saloon for the Mercedes. It's the Cataclean Plato Racing, which is the official name for it. And the two drivers for him this year are Adam Morgan, who is leaving West Surrey Racing's BMW squad and moving fully now into a permanent Mercedes seat, moving from BMW to Mercedes, so one German manufacturer to another. And, well, the worst kept secret, Dan Rowbottom, he had a miserable 2025 season. He had high tensions at Napa. He felt he wasn't being given enough run against Camish and Sutton, and he was sort of being pegged back to where Osborne was. Robo was miserable for all of last year, but Matt, I'm delighted to say he's got his mojo back and he's got his smile back. So the question is Plato Racing actually going to be competitive from the green light?
Well, it's the big story, isn't it, of the winter, that A, JP is back, and B, he's brought another manufacturer in. Not surprising when Dan Rowbottom was announced as a driver that they've got Cataclean sponsorship. Yeah. He takes it everywhere he goes. But yeah, he was the third Focus last year behind Ash and Dan Camish for sure. Was one of those where they've just run too many cars basically, and someone had to lose out, which is a shame. But we know how fast he is, so let's hope that he gets himself in there and feels comfortable straight away and the car is fast. Adam Morgan as well has got Mercedes history, of course, because he was running the old Shape A class for many years, back at the turn of this decade.
Just start, just start to
and very successful in it as well, back in those days. So, two guys that are a bit on the redemption arc after a couple of years in the doldrums, I suppose, for both of them in terms of winning. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that team goes. Looks good, white and purple paint scheme.
It pops, but I tell you what, the laser tools, the blue, they've changed it this year. It's now like a darker, and it's shiny. It really hits you. We were standing up at the commentary box, and you can see the whole Indy circuit. You knew where the laser tools were. It was quite like there they are. They're going to pop. So
yeah, look, I think that looks the best, that Mercedes, to be honest, from the pictures I've seen today, and hopefully it goes as fast as it looks. It goes as well as it looks. So because everyone's going to be wanting JP to, well, unless you're a Matt Neal fan from times immemorial, or an Ivan Muller fan, or a James Thompson fan, or a Rickard Rydell fan, or an Alan Menu fan, from times immemorial. He goes back all the way to 97. So if you were against JP, you won't want him to do well, but as you mentioned, he's the star of this championship for many, many years and the fan favourite for most of that time. So, it's going to be interesting to see. I'm sure he'll get plenty of TV time.
Oh, I'm definitely going to be there. I can't wait. Before I answer the last question, I'll run through the times and results so that people know what it was. Charles Rainford was on top. Then Dan Camish was second. Josh Cook third. Dexter Patterson in fourth with the new Audi A3 Saloon, followed by Mikey Doble. And then it was Ash Sutton, Aaron Taylor-Smith, Gordon Shedden, James Dorlin, Adam Morgan rounded out the top 10 from Aidan Moffat, Chris Smiley, Sam Osborne, Dan Rowbottom, Max Buxton, who did go off the circuit down at turn 1 and actually delayed the practice start session at the end of the day. Lewis Selby, Tom Ingram, Tom Chilton, who had an alternator issue at the end of the first session, but did manage to get back out. Ricky Collard, Dal DeYoung and Nick Hamilton, who only did 26 laps most of the day, 72 from Ash Sutton. So he was really getting in there early on. So, Matt, I think we've already answered this, but who are you watching for 2026 to be a title contender and just be very impressive?
Yeah, well, it's probably going to come, if the focus is as good as the hatch was last year, it's going to come down to Sutton versus Ingram, probably, for the championship. But there will be plenty of other people trying to and winning races, Shedden, Chilton, those Mercedes that we just talked about with Robo and Morgan, ATS. The reverse grid races are going to be unpredictable as always. We've got the sprint on the Saturday, as you mentioned, which is another wrinkle to throw into the whole weekend. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. When that was announced, we talked about it, and you were for it, I was against it. So we'll have to wait and see how that starts to go on at Donington next weekend. So
even the drivers are 50-50 asking them today. They don't know.
I think we're going to have to wait and see until we've got some samples over the 3 or 4 rounds to go, is this a good thing or not? So yeah, very excited for Donington next weekend.
Exactly, yeah. BTCC starts next weekend. Any surprises in store regarding the BTC this year, says Adam? My biggest, from being there today, watch Plato Racing, watch Dexter Patterson. He's got a surprise. And surprisingly, I'd watch Rainford. He looked very, very with the car today, and he was very much on it. I think it will be a surprise.
He did win at Brands Hatch Indy last year, though, as well. So he obviously goes well around that track. Adam says, can Ingram defend his championship?
He says yes.
I did my predictions, and I put Sutton because I thought, right, he's going to be back. He's got to go for it this year, and then they would change the car. So I'm swaying towards Tom as well. He's the only one of the top guys that hasn't changed in terms of car shape, team, new team. Everything in his world has stayed pretty much exactly the same.
Bar one thing, and it caught me by surprise. His seat changed. It's no longer like a lay back how he was. It's pretty much a 90-degree angle in the car. So he's upright a bit more, which shouldn't change anything, but it's just weird. It's gone from being like that to like that. So I don't know whether maybe he's got a bit of lower back issue. I mean, winning so many times last year and jumping off that podium kind of does put it on you.
Trophies above your head, heavy thing.
That's yeah. Sure, there's a little thing on the side of the car ready to put the amount of wins on again with stars. It's quite fun. But the British Touring Car Championship does start next weekend, and that's going to be at Donington Park. It's live on ITV here in the UK, and that's going to be on YouTube as well to watch the Saturday action. That is only live on YouTube for the first race of the year. It'll be on YouTube around the world on the British Touring Car on the British Touring Car YouTube channel. So you can watch over there in the States. And if you want to watch trackside action, that's live on JB Motorsports with every race covered across the weekend. And we've got a very good opening 2 rounds of the season when we're both trackside for Donington and Brands again. Okay, well, there's me back. And I think I filled about 15, 20 minutes, actually. So that was pretty decent. It's been a long day, but we're nearly done. Not much left because, I said to Kobe, I wish, certain people in the world would stop war so that we have more to talk about now in April. Because the show is, I don't know what we're going to do next week. I don't know. We'll talk fun with flags. Like we'll talk about all the flags in motorsport. Anyway, here's the latest from the Grid EPA update. Has anything actually happened?
There was, Josh. There was some racing over the Easter weekend for the week 2 of the 2026 Grid Endurance Performance Index, and they took place at Sepang over the weekend for the GT World Challenge Asia. And it was a double win for Porsche. 2 different teams on top. On Saturday, Absolute Racing were the team to take the victory in the 911 car. Alessandro Giretti and Huang Ruhan coming home with the winner, and Giretti will win our first Grid EPI Weekend Performer Award for the victory and the 4th place that they took in race 2. So congratulations to young Alessandro Giretti, Frenchman, someone to look out for. He's been doing some good things in the last couple of years in some other the GT categories, and this could be a little bit of a springboard that he needs to perhaps become a Porsche factory driver over the next couple of years. There was a Porsche factory driver at the helm of the Origin Motorsport car that won the Sunday race, and that was Alessio Picariello. We know him from the IMSA paddock as well. He and Wei Lu, one of last year's champions, coming home to take the win on Sunday for the Origin Motorsport team. So that is week 2 of EPI done and dusted. They were the only 2 races that scored this weekend. That means we're now 20 races on the board. And here is how the leaderboard looks. No changes whatsoever inside the top 10. Jordan Pepper, Matt Campbell, Matthew Jacobson, Mick Grenier, and Maxime Martin are top 5. So that was exactly how it was for week 1 last week, with just those 2 GT World Challenge Asia races taking place. There's been a few changes towards the back end of the top 50, which you can see on screen there. Neil Verhagen was one of the top performers over the weekend. He has moved himself up slightly to 21st. There is the top 50 with Sven Muller at the bottom of it, as Alessandro Giretti, our performer of the week, is 47th in the Grid EPI overall standings for week 2. But expect big changes on that leaderboard this week because it is a busy weekend. On Saturday, it is NLS 3. NLS 1, of course, not taking place a couple of weeks ago because of snow at the Nürburgring. NLS 2, headlined by Max Verstappen. He's not in town this week for NLS 3. So the 3rd round of the championship, but only really the 2nd race, is on Saturday at the Nordschleife. Also on Saturday, the GT World Challenge Europe Championship gets underway at Paul Ricard for a 6-hour race into the darkness. That's the traditional season opener there. That's on Saturday. And on Sunday, 2 more races to score. The old spreadsheet's going to be busy this week. Super GT gets its season underway at Okayama on Sunday morning for us in the UK and in Europe, and late Sunday night for you guys stateside. And it's the first race of the European Le Mans Series at Barcelona Circuit de Catalunya on Sunday afternoon as well. So plenty of GT cars, a bit of prototype action thrown in. Nothing happening over the Easter weekend pretty much. And bang, it is 4 races straight off the bat this week. Next week there is 5, and the week after there is 6. So there is plenty of races coming thick and fast in Grid Endurance Performance Index land. Jordan Pepper still leads the championship. Alessandro Giretti is our Grid EPI Performer of the Week. And there is the top 50 on screen for you once again. Let's hand to Kobe now. He's got more of the headlines from a very quiet week indeed.
Thanks, Matt. Not headlines, plural, headline, singular, because we literally only have one story for you just to put into perspective how quiet this last Easter weekend was in motorsports. With that said, here's our only story for tonight. After leaving Prema Racing, Sebastian Weldon is moving over to MP Motorsport to continue his development in Europe. Weldon will kick off his second full season racing across the pond in the FIA Formula Regional European Championship. Last year, he impressed in the E4 and Italian F4 championships, finishing 4th and 3rd, respectively, in the final standings. He also participated in the F4 World Cup race on the streets of Macau and finished 4th in that. And in addition, the 17-year-old native of St. Petersburg, Florida, finished 5th earlier this year in the Formula Regional Middle East Trophy. Weldon said he's delighted to be with his new team because their pace was impressive when he competed against them in the Middle East. So he feels good to be on their side now. Photo courtesy of MP Motorsport. And now, I'm going to turn it to Matt for everyone's favorite game, Pick a Winner.
And for those that don't know, Formula Regional is the step down from FIA Formula 3 that we see on the Formula 1 weekend. Time for Pick a Winner, which, much like everything else, had a weekend off over the Easter weekend, and I hope everyone had a great weekend, which was, of course, filled with chocolate. Let's talk about Pick a Winner. You can get involved by using the hashtag Pick a Winner across all of the Grid Network TV social media. I've had a WhatsApp from Mr. Matthew Owens saying, you better show the leaderboard this week because I'm on it. And there he is in 20th position. He's listening, but not watching right now because he's in the work van. So good afternoon to you, M.O. Kobe is joint top again with Mr. Matt B, who you can see on Grid Rising, of course, on a Monday, with his co-host Tanner in 3rd, sandwiching Kobe. Josh up to 4th, ahead of JT. And then it's myself, Joe, Alex, Nicole, and Isha B, rounding out the top 10. Plenty of points on offer this weekend, and we're going to talk about a couple of them to give our picks on the show now. We'll start with the World Rally Championship, which is back in Europe and back in action for round 4 of its season on tarmac for the second time. I suppose we should count Monte Carlo as a proper tarmac rally, even though it had some snow. Rally Croatia this weekend is what we've got coming your way. And of course, don't forget with WRC, you need to get your pick in fairly early before the first stage of the rally gets underway. So make sure you get your pick in nice and sharpish. I get first dibs as always on the show, and I'm going to go for the man that won here 2 years ago, and that is Elvin Evans. He is my pick for Rally Croatia this weekend. Kobe, who have you got?
Yeah, there's quite a few rally races I can choose from. So I think I'll go with Oliver Solberg to win the Croatia rally. And before turning back, would you answer this quick question from Jamie saying, will Oliver Behrman get a win this year? I'm going to say Jamie, as long as he's driving a Haas, highly unlikely, but never say never with this new regulations, because we may see something crazy happen. So I guess never say never, but I think being realistic, it's probably highly unlikely that Oliver Behrman will win in a Haas this year.
Next to do a pick a winner, pick 4 is, we talked about it at the top of the show, Supercars in Taupo on the South Island this weekend. 3 races, of course, 2 on Saturday and the longer distance one on Sunday. I am going to do a provisional, and of course I can change this because I've got all the way up until the green flag or lights out of the race to get pick in. I am going to go for Saturday victories. I am going to go Cam Waters for race 1, and I'm going to go with a Toyota for race 2. I think Chazzy Mozzie gets a win for Toyota, and they're first. Toyota's at Taupo. They're my 2 picks for Saturday. Who you got, Kobe?
Wow, that'd be huge for Toyota to finally get on the board and get that long-awaited Supercars win. So it'll be awesome if that happens. But for me, I think race 1, I'll go with Ryan Wood. And race 2, I say Will Brown bounces back and gets the victory. But as Matt said, all of this is provisional. So before the green flag of those 2 races, you can change it. Like if we get the qualifying results and whoever you pick, it's not where you'd like them to be, then you can change it. Yeah. So for now, going with Ryan Wood for race 1 and Will Brown for race 2. I see you're up there on the leaderboard, Josh. So who you got to try to stay up there?
Well, Melbourne doesn't really count count, does it? As it's on the calendar, but it doesn't really make a difference. It's such a different circuit to what we race on around the year. So scraps Melbourne's results. I think Brock Feeney's going to do well because he ran well at Sydney. And then I'll also back Will Brown for race 2 after that. Yes, he got pole in Melbourne, but his racecraft's come on a lot this year. There's an issue, apparently. There you go, Matt.
There you go. Sorry, you disappeared on us, Josh, for a second.
Sorry. They want more of me. They want more of me.
If you've got more, go ahead.
Oh no, I don't. I'm just saying that the TV wants more of me because I wasn't here at the start.
True. No long fast corners at Taupo like there is at Albert Park, and we saw how well Brody Kostecki went over the Grand Prix weekend. So interesting to see how that pans out. Get your picks in for those 2 races, and NASCAR at Bristol on Sunday is also pick a winner worthy. Adam is also going with Elvin Evans, and he's going with Brock Feeney, and also going with me, with Chaz Mostert, to pick up victories on the Saturday. So plenty of points available. There is Mr. Owens. Me finally picking a winner is Do You Believe in Miracles Worthy? Well, it is that time of year. And he's on 2 points. So congratulations to you. Get all your picks in for Taupo, for Croatia, and for NASCAR at Bristol, using the hashtag pick a winner over the weekend. We weren't going to do hots and nots, but I've just been thinking about them. There isn't not was the fact that we've had nothing to talk about, relatively speaking, but we've still cobbled together an hour of show.
Thanks, Touring Cars.
Yeah, thank you, Touring Cars. Hot, Supercars hot, related hot, is, I can't remember when it was now, 3 or 4 years ago, certainly since I lived in this house, because I remember sitting at the kitchen table doing it. They released a load of old races on their YouTube channel. An absolute stack of them. They're back. They're adding more. 1 a day as of this week. We've had Bathurst from 2000. They did Canberra today from, I think, 2000 as well. A 90 Sandown 500. Good old races. More of them, I think, coming to Supercars YouTube channel every day. That's pretty much the hot of the whole weekend for me, because there was just nothing to watch.
No, even I wasn't in the commentary box for Rockingham. I took that week off, much needed, I can tell you. So, hot for me, Touring Cars, great day. I think I was so angry when they said, why have they moved it to Brands Hatch? It's ages to get to. Why have they done that? It's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, Donington, hasn't it, last couple of years?
Yeah, and Donington's been really good. No. I really like it being there. I really... Great views of the commentary box, great vicinity, great food, paddocks open. Great. Very much a day in a very nice little sun trap. I really enjoyed today, and I'm really glad I went now, because I was 50-50, because it's so long. It's been 9 hours on a train today, and then 8 hours walking around. It's been a long one. But that was definitely a hot. Well done. Looking forward to going back for the second round of the championship. Not for me. It happened today as well. I was reading on the train on the way back. NASCAR shortening the Talladega final 2 stages to save fuel on super speedways. Well, if that's the case, if we're trying to save fuel, why bother with Talladega? There's a big 600 race just a couple of months down the line that runs for 4 stages, and everybody wishes was just 3 stages. Maybe cut that.
Yeah.
I know.
This dog's got appendicitis, quick cut off its legs. I don't know. What are we doing? Just fixing something for fixing something's sake.
Yeah.
But they're all still going to run around in single file.
Yeah.
At some point.
I know. We saw it. We saw how bad it was last year. I heard Donald Trump's the new president of NASCAR. Anyways, that might make a bit of sense.
That was my next hot. Was we did pick a winner list, which has obviously had its legs cut off because we should have had MotoGP at Qatar this weekend and a Grand Prix in Bahrain.
Yeah, I should have been busy.
Yeah, but and I've got the house to myself on Saturday here, and I went, oh, good. There's nothing on.
There's Long Beach. There's some IMSA at Long Beach.
That's next weekend.
Was it next weekend? Oh,
next weekend, Long Beach. Yeah. Again, what was the will Ollie Behrman? That question we had before was, what will Ollie Behrman win a race this year? Well, he certainly going to win one this month because there should have been 2 Grand Prix and there isn't any.
Oh, it's just Bristol again. It's just NASCAR.
Yeah, in the American sphere, it's all 3 series at Bristol this weekend. But other than that, Hot says Mr. Owens was the great crowd at Rockingham at the weekend for everyone in the media who told me it would be horrible for year 2. Shrug emoji. I said last week, they backed out last week, they'll come back, and I was right.
Okay, let's wrap up then tonight's show. Thanks to Owen, by the way, for stepping in whilst I was running back. And thanks to you, Matt and Kobe as well, for bearing with me while I did that. It did feel quite good. We managed to make it an hour. Well done, everyone. An hour on absolutely nothing deserves a round of applause. Taking a look at our upcoming schedule, Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up is 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Bristol Motor Speedway. Monday, Grid Rising is at 7 p.m. Eastern, recapping the O'Reillys and trucks in Thunder Valley, plus other motorsport action. Competitive tiddlywinks. Now, please do continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you like what you saw tonight, you can send us a YouTube super chat and show your appreciation. We've now surpassed 1,700 subscribers, and please help us reach our next milestone of 2,000 subscribers. You can hit the bell icon to get notifications so you'll always know when we go on the air, and follow all of our social media platforms and visit gridnetworktv.com. Take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join or a YouTube channel membership now. You can join Colin, Mark, Deshelle, Robin, David, Matthew, Crystal, Nico, and our newest member, Gloria, who all invest each month in the Grid Network. We encourage you to join this great group of people that keep us on the air all year long. And once we hit $500 per month, we can afford to send our team to the track more often and continue growing our media outlet. Link to all of that is in the video description below. And if you want to make a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board, and invest as much as you want, and consider buying a specific on-air personality a cup of coffee, and they'll thank you on the air. So, for Kobe Lambeth and Matt White from the Grid Endurance Performance Index, and Omi and myself, Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. It really has been a labour of love tonight from these guys. We'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.